Welcome to We Believe, a consideration of religious beliefs and God's Word, examined in conversation by James F. Walsh, an attorney and Roman Catholic deacon, and Dr. Richard Shriver, United Methodist minister and professor of theology. Each discussion embraces carefully chosen subjects, selected in an effort to deepen your religious awareness, in the sincere hope that We Believe will help provide a bridge of understanding among all the children of God.
Hello, welcome to We Believe. Glad to have you today. We've got some special guests here to my left, Dr. Richard Shriver and John.
I'm a co-host now.
Well, you're a guest now, see?
No, I'm a co-host because I...
Have you contributed to the pot lately?
No, yeah.
All right, then you're a co-host. Yeah,
yeah, I'm a co-host, but I got a raise, you know.
You got a raise, all right.
I got from a 10%?
Yeah,
10%.
10% of nothing is still nothing, Richard. John Bosio. And Kim Bollinger. How close was I?
That was very close.
Very
that was
close.
exact.
Right. I'm
Bollinger.
practicing to say
Bollinger.
that, folks. She's fussed at me
Bollinger.
about it. But listen, John, you take over now because you're the one that knows what we're going to talk about.
Okay, Jim. Thank you very much.
All right. Good luck to you now.
Thank you. We are in the second show of our series of 4 on the virtues, the Cardinal Virtues. In the previous show, the first one, it was on prudence. Kim, what do you remember prudence is?
Well, there you go. You're going to put me on the spot. It is the habit of making good decisions. How was that?
That's very good.
All right.
That's
She
very
learned
good.
something
That's
last
excellent.
time. Yeah.
And these are called the Cardinal Virtues because they are essential for our success in life. and
Or
in
they
society.
originated with Plato.
They originated with Plato.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if the wisdom literature in the Bible is it's actually earlier than that. It's about King Solomon was about 900 years before Christ. So, but it's a convergence of things that the Jewish people, as well as the Greek and the Romans, all came to the conclusion that these 4 virtues are important in life. They help us shine as human beings. And so what we will be doing in this show is we will be reflecting on the virtue of justice, fairness. And since we're tying this to the family, we will focus specifically on how we practice justice within the family, between husband and wife, between parents and children, and between adult children and their elderly parents, because we are all one community, one family, and what happens there then will affect society. So we want to start with the family. Is that clear, Jim?
Sure. Very good.
And the following videos will be about the remaining cardinal virtues, which are remaining are courage. So we've done prudence, we do justice, there will be courage, and then temperance.
But this is justice coming up.
This is justice, and the title of the video will be Justice as the Source of Peace and Harmony in the Family.
Years ago, while walking on a beach, a Greek storyteller saw 2 crabs moving on the rocks and told this story.
One day, a mother crab said to her baby, "Son, don't drag yourself sideways like that. It is not good for you. It is better to stroll forward." To which the baby replied, "I will, Mom, as soon as you show me how. Watching you, I will do what you do."
The story reminds us that children are always watching us, and they do what we do. What is justice? According to the Catechism, the virtue of justice is the constant and firm will to give what is due to God and to each person. The virtue of justice prompts us to respect the rights of others. St. John Paul II wrote, "The family is the first school of those social virtues that every society needs." In this video, we reflect on the practice of the virtue of justice among the members of the family, between husband and wife, between parents and children, and between adult children and their parents. Justice in the family begins with husband and wife giving each other what they promised with their wedding vows. Do you remember what you promised to your spouse in your vows?
I said mine in Spanish, so he may not know what I said.
For better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, forsaking all others.
In sickness and in health.
Always and forever.
Love, cherish, obey, honor.
We promised everything.
Love you through all of that.
Everything,
and there's
nonstop.
some challenging days.
We promised to be together forever, and forever is a long time.
Not sure if we knew the repercussions of that when we said them.
And at that time, I didn't fathom the magnitude of those words.
Thornton Wilder, the American playwright, wrote, "I didn't marry you because you were perfect. I married you because you gave me a promise." Two imperfect people got married, and it was the promise that made the marriage. And when our children were growing up, it wasn't the house that protected them. It was that promise. What did you learn from your parents' marriage?
What I learned from my parents' marriage is to be there for each other.
What I learned from my parents' marriage is service.
What I learned from my parents' marriage was perseverance.
Or what I learned from my parents is sacrifice.
When my parents divorced, I was 40 years old. But I felt like an 11-year-old girl who just wanted her daddy to love her mommy. And it was really hard for a long time. But what I ultimately learned was how to truly forgive.
Pope Francis told couples, "Don't ever forget that your children are always watching you. There is no greater testimony for a child than seeing his own parents love one another." The story of the mother crab speaks to all parents about their duty, out of justice, to be a good example to their children and to be models of virtue. Out of justice, what do parents owe their children?
We owe our children unconditional love.
Raising them in the faith, giving them a safe and secure environment.
To give them what they will need to be successful parents, successful people.
Our children deserve from us our principles and our values and our morals.
One of the first obligations of parents is to spend time with their children. Pope Francis, in one of his weekly audiences, lamented that fathers today do not spend enough time with their children.
The one thing I like to do with all my children is to make memories. For example, we would go on vacation and I would always make a music soundtrack for our vacation. And I would always put iconic songs on there, songs that I knew that they would hear for years and years to come. And when they would hear that song, they would think of that vacation or that trip or something.
What do you want your children to learn from you?
What I want my children to learn from me is that I want them to be able to be good citizens.
What I want my children to learn from me is love and respect.
To work hard and to always have a smile.
What I would want my children to learn from me is fairness. You treat everybody the same.
What I want my children to learn from me is to rely on their faith. Faith in God. That God is always with them, always helping them.
Justice exists in the family when the rights of every member are respected. The family members who are easily forgotten today are the elderly, our parents and our grandparents.
We're the living example of what we do for our parents to our children. So kind of keeping with the commandment, honor thy mother and father, that kind of fulfills that, I hope.
How close are you to your parents?
I'm very close to my mother. I see her every week, talk several times a week.
My mother lives in Southern California, and I talk to her probably once a week.
We are not close physically, but we try to be very close with them with the technology help. I used to make Skype with them every single day.
I was very close to my mother and father. My father died at 55 years of age. I was with him when he died. My mom was 64 when she died. I can't see a cardinal and I can't see a robin without saying hi, Mom and Dad. their two favorite birds.
Out of justice, what do adult children owe their parents?
I would hope that it wouldn't be an obligation to me to take care of my parents as they age. I hope it would be something that I lovingly would want to do.
I don't really consider it to be an obligation. To me, in some ways, it's a privilege.
The obligation is to be there for them, to read them a book, to play cards with them. I saw it with my grandma. She wanted to be part of the family. She wanted to have the meal with us. She wanted to be heard. Even if sometimes what she said didn't make sense.
When seen through the eyes of faith, the virtue of justice is no longer a list of obligations. It is an act of self-giving love, a love that we learn from Jesus.
When we were taking care of Barb's mom, sometimes that disrupted our relationship as well because we felt maybe guilty about not spending enough time with her because she made us feel that way, that we were not giving her enough attention. And I remember times where I would try to get my breakfast done and leave before Mom would come out of the bedroom because she'd ask all these questions and she was confused.
I think what we realized, it wasn't the same mom that I knew. You know, she was fading. The reason we did it is because we loved her.
Now, my daddy was the hardest working person you ever seen in his life. And he was a mechanic. He could fix anything mechanical. We owned a garage and he fixed junk cars. He kind of got in trouble with his taxes. And, you know, the folks decided to take his business and everything. Well, I went down and I talked to the bank and they changed the interest rate from 7% to 3%. And then, you know, just was able to, help him manage his money. They had given me everything that I had. And really, I call him my father. He was actually my stepfather, but he was my father in the sense that he raised me. And they gave me all the support that they could, give me. So anything I could do for them, I did.
We grow in the virtue of justice through the example of the saints and the graces we receive in the sacrament of penance. Reparation and forgiveness restore justice and promote harmony and peace in the family and in society. From the story of the two crabs, we learn the importance of a parent's example in a child's life. Your children are watching you. Always do what is right. Give what is due to God and be fair with every person you meet. And when you fall short, seek to repair the damage and to ask for forgiveness. The practice of justice brings harmony into your home, and from your home, peace spills into your community, and from there to the rest of the world.
Welcome back. We're glad you've been with us and you've just seen a video on the virtue of justice. And the title of the video was Justice as the Source of Peace and Harmony in the Home. So I want to ask you, what struck you about the video? You at home can think of the same thing. What struck you? One thing that struck you. Jim,
well, I thought the definition of justice was to give everybody his just due, what is right, fair, and honorable, and that's to God and to human beings. And I cannot help relate the concept of justice that we're just talking about. My job with Tom's brother. My job was
Tom's
justice.
brother.
Richard's brother, I'm sorry. Tom, Richard's brother, who was a DA. Our job was justice. What is just? And I'll give you a case later on, and you tell me what's just. So
okay.
Anyway, that's what we're supposed to do every day.
Okay, Richard?
To give what is due to each person, family-wise. I had a little bit of problem with this video because, to me, my father was, now my brother was the DA, but my dad was for 40 years a judge in Nashville, and he was the presiding judge of the State Court of Appeals. So he was a man of great influence and hard shoes to fill. But I grew up in a home where he really practiced his concept of justice in everything he did, and home, so I feel very fortunate about that. In my adult life myself, I have justice is fairness, and the video made that very clear. But to me, fairness is related to equality, and for me, the ministry in the church has been to do away with, to really fight against prejudices. My first battle was with my own segregationist leanings, and to get rid of the racial prejudice, and then the gender, the women's lib movement, which was, I think, at its best, women's equality movement, which we're still fighting for, you know, as well as the racial problems. I've always wanted equality for Methodist ministers. You know?
So are you equating equality with fairness?
I do. I do. I don't know how you can have fairness without people perceiving each other as equals, and particularly husband and wife. So much of the tradition of marriage in our society has been the man, the head of the household, which gets out of control, and the woman, and it dates back to biblical times when the woman was purchased and was property of the husband.
But the definition of justice is giving everybody what is due to them.
That's the definition in the video.
Yes, but that's the definition for us Catholic in the, from our catechism, because you say you cannot be fair, equality and fairness are at the same level. Then how are you just toward God? God is, you're obviously not equal to God.
No. And equality.
Richard occasionally thinks, though, after he's on equality basis.
You're going to question that? No. When I talk about equality, I'm obviously not talking about equality of intelligence. I mean, we aren't Einstein. I'm not talking about equality of opportunities even. We hope for that. But when I think of equality, I think of children and parents of being equal in the sense they are all children of God.
Okay.
And I do think that God's plan for us is to grow in grace. This is a good Methodist idea. Grow in grace so that when we enter heaven, hopefully, that we will have, in a sense, an equal status. Paul says, he suggests that our hope is in sharing the glory of God.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not suggesting that we're equal to God, but I am suggesting that all people should look upon each other. And one of the areas that I've had so much trouble with in my university classes, when we start talking about marriage, when we start talking about the role of the man in the family, the idea of when a couple comes together perceiving each other as equals, that's when love really has its chance to work.
Yes.
And if one thinks they're better than the other, if the other one thinks the other one's better than they are, in some way, that's not the ideal.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's the sense in which I mean fairness is equality.
So equality as human beings
is that we're children of God.
Children of God.
Yeah.
Kim, thank you, by the way, Richard.
What struck me was it occurred at the very beginning of the video, the story of the two crabs, where the baby crab was saying, "I'm watching what you do."
I wanted to see the crab run off backwards, which is what they do. You know?
Sideways.
No, sideways,
No,
but I see them
sideways.
when I've seen them, they go backwards.
But that is so true. They will emulate what their parents do.
That's good.
And you, as a parent, you never get away from that. Bad or good, your children are going to watch what you do and they're going to emulate that. And I found that very striking in the
And if they're not fair.
video. I'm sorry?
And if the parents are not fair.
If the parents are not fair, if they're not in sync with each other, the children are going to pick up on it.
If they're not prudent, the children will pick up on
they're
it.
not prudent.
Let me tell you what I was thinking of. I mean, all of us are influenced by our own background. My job, day in, day out, along with the judge, assistant district attorney's job was to do justice. What is justice? Now let me give you an example of what is justice. Some lady works as a bookkeeper for a firm, and she steals money from the firm, you know, and so they get a warrant out for her. Well, she comes in, and well, they're a lawyer, of course. The reason she stole the money was her husband had cancer.
So she says.
That's her story. And the bills were breaking up, and there's a tear in her eye, and all of this may be true, see?
Being Irish, he's wondering why.
Huh?
Because there never should be a tear there at all.
Oh, well, anyway. So, okay. Anyway, this one has a tear. Maybe she's telling the truth, you know? Maybe she's done nothing before at all. They want to pay back the money and apologize to the owner. And could we just cut her a little slack? And that's an appealing story. Maybe she's right as rain. Maybe only thing she's ever done wrong. And this was for somebody else. On the other hand, if she hasn't got a conviction somewhere, then the next time she goes down the street and gets a job as another bookkeeper in another place, she's exposing the next guy to that same thing. What's the justice of the DA? Is it to say, okay, lady, you've learned your lesson, now be good, and here's pay back the money, tell the guy you're sorry, and go on your way? Or, no, you're going to have to plead guilty to something. What's fair? What's fair? What's fair, John?
I don't know. I would ask you, since you are the lawyer.
How did that turn out?
Yeah.
Well, I used to talk to his brother. He and I used to go over to Gertz and discuss this case, these kind of cases. What is fair? You struggle with it. Actually, the solution is, I think, put her on probation for a couple of years, and or a year or so, and then if she's okay, you can dismiss her record.
Can you do enough? Do you have any resources to investigate?
Well, I mean, she's admitted she did it. You don't have to.
No, I mean investigate whether her story is
Oh, about whether her story is true. No, you know, we never did really get to that point. We kind of accepted, well, she's either a good liar.
You didn't watch Pierre Mason enough.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question, because the two of you and I are older than Kim, and our children are grown up. In the video, we talk about the fact that parents have children have a responsibility to our parents, but parents have a responsibility to our children. So what is our responsibility?
Don't you think every parent has got to be fair? Try to extend fairness to all children equally.
Yeah, but how do you do that at your age at this point and your age at this point? Your children are not home.
No, you just try to be fair. You don't do for more and not do for the other. If you do for the other, you better do something for this one.
Let me
just last night.
Yeah.
Our granddaughters stayed the night with us, ages 6 and 8. And I'd better be careful how I tell this to the wide public, you know. But our 8-year-old, she is the prettiest little girl and smart. And somebody had told her that she was not smart.
Oh.
And she had said something to my wife about it, and Joy, my wife, told me about it. And I had the chance last night, just before they went to bed, to sit down on the couch and privately talk to her.
Mm.
And I said, don't you let anybody tell you, you know, that you're not smart. You're smart as you can do anything your little mind wants to do. And talked about her big blue eyes too a little bit. And she, you know, it's a chance that grandparents have if you take it.
Yes, it's so important. It's such an important role that grandparents play in the life of grandchildren. And
I know I felt a lot better about it than she did, but
well, at least you felt you filled your responsibility out of justice, or just because of love for your grandchild. But one piece that we haven't touched on that was at the end of the video is that justice is something we strive for. Often we fail, or sometimes we fail, and that is where forgiveness comes in. Because without forgiveness, then the peace and harmony that's supposed to come with justice is not possible.
You're suggesting we're not equal with God.
Well, of course we're not. You're suggesting we are?
No, no.
Okay.
No, I was just reminding you what you said earlier.
No, we do need
justice mixed with mercy.
Right, but we do need forgiveness from God, and we do need forgiveness from each other. In that sense. So, just to wrap it up, thank you for your insights and your input. This has been a session on the virtue of justice, which we have defined as that virtue that, excuse me, allows us to bring peace and hope in our families. And this is something we live every day. We learn justice from our parents. We have to practice our justice in dealing with our children and grandchildren. And so thank you for paying attention and being here. We'll see you at the next session.